What's up, all? RTF Assassin here. Welcome to this week's Lore Roundtable discussion, session number 3. Hopefully, you all have enjoyed the videos so far and will continue to enjoy them going forward. This week, we're discussing deep diving into the story, we discuss several theories, and what we expect to come up, what's coming up next. Hopefully, you all have enjoyed it. Make sure you hit a like. You comment on it, share it with a friend, and also drop a follow on it. You all have a great one. Assassins out. Really fun, and we were kind of capped in an hour. Not really have anything planned tonight, so we can go a little longer if we need to tonight, which is going to be nice. I feel like the last couple we didn't get everything out, so tonight we have an opportunity to. Yo,
nice. Where do you want to start,
Josh? So let's start with this week. There's all kinds of theories out there. I do want to discuss a few this week. I know. Must Play's been chomping at the bit at one as well.
Yes, sir.
So I definitely want to discuss some theories and stuff. But let's get into the lore. So not as necessarily heavy, like it wasn't like a big cutscene or anything like that this week, but the lore itself I think was pretty good, especially well after once you go drop off the relic at the table or whatever. It kind of gives you that little glimpse at Nezarec and how that transpired during the collapse or whatever. So what are your guys' thoughts on the lore this week?
I feel.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You go first, Biden.
All right. So, granted, this is me piecing together like YouTube videos and stuff. But I don't know. I liked it. Just some more like supplemental info on Nezarec, which is always nice. Although I don't know, it makes me more interested in his motive, because previously we thought, like he turned against the witness. But at least what I heard in the Xbox party, it sounded like he was messed up by the Traveler,
Yeah. That's 100%.
Yeah. And not, doing a whole Savathun thing of, hey, maybe I'm on the wrong side.
We don't know what happened after ship crash in the moon.
That's true.
Could have. Since we're still missing a lot of the early, end of the collapse, beginning of the Dark Ages time period. We're still missing a lot of that story.
Yeah, it's just Yeah,
so
a lot of questions out there regarding that.
Some more gray,
right. So my top of my notes is, what do we know? What do we know? So we know he betrayed, because that's very evident through the lore and what little bit of lore we have in Nezarec. He betrayed someone. We just don't know how or who or when. We assumed that it was the disciple or the witness that he betrayed, but it almost feels like it's not, that he betrayed the Traveler in some theories that I've read, and some like how the lore is worded. Again, we don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we really just we're not sure on, but so I think it's very interesting. We're missing. We got the potatoes and we got the other veggies, but we haven't got the meat of the story yet. And I'm really anxious to see what next week. I think next week is really going to be nice. Get kind of wrap up that, well, not necessarily potentially wrap up that story, or at least get us to the main course,
to a semi-conclusion.
Right.
I think next week is going to stay away from Nezzy a bit.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Moving away from Nezarec, this week's dialogue in both the lore book, the calm chat after you dropped in the relic and all that, really shows another light of Aramis. And that,
Agreed.
or her treatment of Ida.
Fucking troll. You're such a troll.
Doesn't really have the same resentment as she does to the Guardian or to Mithrax as she does with Ido.
Right. She respects Ido is kind of what I gather from the one lore the one lore transmission. Yeah.
Voice log.
Yeah, voice log. That's it. Yeah. You definitely get that sense of, she honors the old ways. I think she even says that in part of the conversation, so there's definitely a level of respect there. So that's pretty interesting.
Well, it goes back to Aramis, in the end, really cares about the Elixni as a whole. And a lot of what she does is for the Elixni, and in particular, getting revenge for the Traveler abandoning them. And so she's driven by that kind of hate, but also like, hey, I'm going to help my Elixni, and I'm going to get you, Machine, because you left us.
Yeah, she's kind of like the opposite of
it's
Mithrax in a way, because Mithrax is very, I want to help the Elixni, but through the light, using the light as a vehicle to do that. Whereas Aramis is the dark counterpart, so to speak.
I've been saying it's two sides of the same coin situation. Both want to help the Elixni in some way, but both have different means.
Yeah, they go about it different ways.
Yeah, Mithrax moves more with the Traveler and trying to unite with humanity, while Aramis.
So this is Destiny lore, like story, like tied into the story, and then you're gonna dig into a little bit deeper, like lore entries.
Has to do with how they came out of the whirlwind in
stuff.
A sense that Aramis was older, and she had to experience a lot of the really awful times where they were picking apart each other.
But lore entries throughout the Destiny, but it's. I mean, story based, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about and what we're talking. What's transpiring right now isn't stuff that we really know a lot about, and that's why we're debating about it and stuff like that.
Doesn't like that.
Yeah, Mithrax was a hatchling when the whirlwind happened, while Aramis was older / has more experience with what actually happened rather than just hearing about it.
Right.
Yeah. And it definitely seems to have shaped her opinion of both her feeling betrayed by the Traveler, but also what really interests me is since she did survive the whirlwind, she should know the power or the destructive nature of the darkness. So it is kind of strange that she would turn to the witness, or at least work with the witness in some way. Work with the dark.
I mean, I don't know how much you can really blame her, especially if she sees it as like the darkness as this like powerful entity. I can see from Aramis's point of view wanting to be on the side of that,
So it means to her end.
Yeah, like if she's working with the darkness, forgetting the fact that the darkness like freed her from the thing, and that's how she got out. Like, I can get wanting to side with the strong force,
Right,
the winning
getting her
side.
own power to fight the
right
Traveler, to get back at the Traveler. Like, I don't need your power. I have my own.
I'm gonna throw a little bit of kind of what I think. So I'm just gonna go down some of the notes that I wrote out because as I was reading lore entries and stuff today. So I kind of talked about it a little bit ago. Like who did Nezarec betray? So we're not sure that it was the witness at this point. We are assuming now that it was the Traveler or someone else, but we're not Go ahead.
Can you explain that? Because from from what I saw in the short video that I watched, it was just like the pyramid crash landed on the moon.
Right. The Traveler weakened the ship to force it to crash land on the moon. It was something not exactly word for word what was said in the entry or the voice recording or whatever that audio was saying, but it was something pretty similar to that. So it was at a battle with the Traveler, and the Traveler forced the pyramid to the moon. And it doesn't say any really more than that, but that would lead you to believe that they were fighting. There was a conflict there, which goes back to we assume that he was fighting the Witness, but the most recent doesn't really support that. I mean,
he didn't fight the Witness. I think he
betrayed the Witness. He
betrayed the Witness by putting his weapons down, is basically my understanding. So he didn't necessarily attack the Witness, but he stopped fighting for the Witness.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't get how what you're saying is betrayed the Traveler, right?
No, I'm not.
If he was ever
He led the attack on Earth, is what it is. Like Nezarec led the assault on Earth.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying that he is. I'm saying
you're saying
I'm not 100% sure now that he betrayed the Witness. I'm saying he betrayed somebody else. There's a lot of theories out there that he was once a light wielder, and which then turned to the Witness. But there's nothing to back that up because we don't know anything about him.
And even with that theory, a big issue with it is we don't really have any other clue of any other species outside of the Guardians wielding the light in this sort of way.
Right, exactly.
Also, in that scenario, we don't know when he betrayed whoever he is. If he did betray the Witness, it could have happened after the fall of the pyramid, after his ship crash landed. And then which would also fit in line with the pieces of his body being scattered in tombs across the Sol system and beyond.
Right. So that was my next thing I was going to mention, right? So let's say that it's not the Witness that he betrayed, and that would mean that Aramis is collecting the pieces of Nezarec so he can be resurrected for the Witness.
Okay.
I have a big issue with it is because it's most likely not the Traveler who he betrayed, but also the only other option really is the Witness of what we know. Because in this whole conflict between light and dark, there are two main sides: are either the Traveler or the Witness.
Right.
And to have a title like the Betrayer, you would have to have betrayed one of those two entities. So, saying that's not the Witness, even though we're not 100% sure, I feel it's more likely the Witness or the darkness than it is the Traveler.
Right. Like I said, these are theories. We don't know. Anything we say right now is a theory because we don't have a clue. We're guessing, which is a theory at that point. It's an educated guess at that, but that's why it's called a theory, not because it's fact. I mean, there are some evidence to back up. We don't know. We're speculating on what side he was on when he fell. We have no idea. We don't know if he stepped to the light ish or if he sided with. I mean, there's all kinds of directions that can go with it. So we just don't know enough. But I'm just saying, what I was reading today and kind of the stuff that I was putting together, I really feel like he didn't portray the Witness, is how I feel.
My big issue with it is because it's most likely not the Traveler who he betrayed, but also the only other option really is the Witness of what we know. Because in this whole conflict between light and dark, there are two main sides: are either the Traveler or the Witness.
Right.
And to have a title like the Betrayer, he would have to have betrayed one of those two entities. So, saying that's not the witness, even though we're not 100% sure, I feel it's more likely the witness or the darkness than it is the trap.
It seems opposite to me based on what we read from, like, even Nezarac's Sin, where it mentions he's going to be a friend, although still a villain somehow, but it mentions the light in a way.
The Nezarec, hang on, Nezarac's Sin is the
Nezarac's
lore,
Sin. Yeah.
is the lore piece.
I'm pulling it up too.
Crap, come on.
So it says, all he offers is not as dark as it may seem. For Nezarec is no demon, but a fiend, arch and vile in ways unknown. He is a path and a way, one of many. And his sin, so wicked, so divine, is that he will never cower when dusk does fall, but stand vigilant as old stars die, and new light blinks its first upon this fetid eternity. So it mentions him and new light there.
Right.
So
yeah, I think
it seems like he would be, on the side of the light or using the light or working with the light. Maybe something like we are, where he also wields darkness powers. My theory involves Savathun. And I did a lot of thinking about why would Savathun deceive the witness? What would cause her to want to do that? And my theory is that she found out that the witness was to blame for the worms, and that whole story that we kind of unveiled in the Witch Queen campaign. My theory is she had found that out, and that's why she deceived the witness.
I think that's possible based on the campaign.
Well,
Yeah.
if you remember the campaign, so somebody already, I brought this up in a different forum, and the first thing somebody said was, no, we told her about that, right? Like, we're the ones who showed her that. But what we have to sit back and remember, we showed her entire life. She remembered what we showed her that entire campaign. So yes, it was a revelation for us, and at that time a revelation for her. Everything we showed her up to that point was a revelation for her.
Right, but she already knew that before she lost her memories. Is that?
She was this theory is we found out about this story about the worms, the seed of the darkness and the worms, from a fossil. What was it?
Savathun's worm. Savathun's familiar, if you will.
Yeah, in a chitinous state. And we only found out using the relic to access memories and awakening. What we don't know is whether or not, let me present my own theory on this. What we know about Savathun's whole plot, I'm not sure if it's been retconned or not, but her whole scheme before we found out about her work as a witness and all that was finding a way to, especially in the earlier seasons of D1 and before, Beyond Light and Shadowkeep, her whole goal was trying to find a way to get rid of Swordlodge, to try to go against Swordlodge. And a big thing about that is maybe she realized that the light has ways to help her have immortality without having the burden of a worm. And
think about what you just said, that she was trying to get away from the worm, trying to get away from the sword logic. I think that bolsters what I'm saying, in that she knew that they were deceived on Fundament, and so she was trying to rebel against it.
My theory is less that she knew they were deceived, and that she knows of the endless hunger. Since that's another point of sword logic, and was the one itself. The worms the hive gods have of the endless hunger. that means they will never be satisfied. They'll always want more, always
Right.
need more food. The issue with saying that she found out about what happened with the stuff at Fundament is honestly they have shown no real signs of her knowing or not knowing. Since the main way we found it out was from the chitinized worm that was buried in what could be said an abandoned area of her strong room. Since the worm familiar was in the statue in her deep within her strong room that was in an abandoned area. I'm not sure if it was necessarily. It wasn't necessarily her worm. It was just a
Well, no,
worm.
we got a lot literally from her worm in the quest to make the gun.
It is true. However,
I'm not even talking about the necessarily the memory from putting the worm on the reflecting pool and all that kind of stuff. The worm itself did some talking, and one of the things the worm says is Savathun deceived the witness and helped the traveler.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder why. Like why would she do that? Savathun doesn't do anything without some kind of reason.
I think Aramis turns from the witness by the end of the season. I think in the conflict,
prediction.
I think during the conflict of what happens this next week, Ido dies. I think we are all in agreement that Ido dies to become the next Guardian. Like we know this is just again, and that'll lead us it'll lead us into the Festival of Lost as well. In that kind of the somber state that's supposed to be remembering all. But it's
one hell of a somber tone, killing the one of the new favorites out there. People
yes,
Paul and friend just died. Let's dress up in a chicken mask.
But that being said, whoever dies, in my opinion, will be resurrected as a Guardian, and I think we all agree that that Ida would be the best choice for that. I think we've all talked about it and agreed. I think we've talked about different scenarios and stuff like that. I don't think Aramis dies. I think Aramis and knowing that she respects Ido so much, and as like I said, we talked about early in the video or early in the conversation was, she really respects Ido and that she respects the old ways. And then in the fight between her and Mithrax, Ido dies. I think that.
Oh, I got something.
I think it's more of a matter of who kills her.
Yeah.
I feel like if Aramis kills Ido, she's like, oh shit, I'm doing something wrong. And then maybe if Mithrax, he might.
I got it.
Know,
I so got it. Here's how it's pictured. It's so beautiful. Mithrax and Aramis fighting. Originally, Mithrax is fighting Aramis to get her away from Ido. Hey, get away from her. Get away from my daughter. Okay. Mithrax, in this fight, goes into rage mode, right? Gets into that more dark side of him where he's a killer. And he has Aramis beaten. And then he's going to swing his sword as kind of a final death blow. And that's where Ido intervenes and says, hey, stop. This is not who we are. Oh. And Mithrax does it anyway. And he takes Ido out.
Yeah.
Wait, can I give my opinion right now?
Yeah.
So, first off, RTF, you said at the beginning you think Aramis is going to turn away from the witness. That is probably the least likely of what you said. The biggest issue with it is what we see in the first lore book of the season, or of Between Soul and Stars. The witnesses' orders are less of a order and more of a demand. Either you do this or you get frozen. Basically.
More of a threat, I'll say.
Yeah, a threat than a
I will order. So, I will murder you. I feel like it's more likely that Mithrax dies or kills
Yeah.
Ido.
Okay, my issue with that is that I don't think, from what I've been seeing in the way that's gone, I will agree that maybe Ido intervenes between the Mithrax and Aramis conflict. I will say that. But also, first for Mithrax to kill Ido is, in my opinion, highly unlikely.
Keep in mind, I don't think he intentionally does it. I think I feel like if anything, he accidentally does it because he's so driven to murder Aramis. And then he's like, oh shit. You know? I feel like that's way more likely than Aramis doing it and then be like, oh, well, there's an error in my ways, you know? Because she said she'll murder Ido. You know?
And that's where we go back to the relic knowledge. If Ido does find the relic, and Aramis and Mithrax have their conflict, what we don't know from the cutscene is when it's, or how it starts. It's most likely over the relic. But the other issue I'm saying is, like we were saying beforehand, the relic's powerful. No ordinary person could wield it. So, what if Ido sees this conflict between Mithrax and Aramis and decides to wield the power of the relic to try to stop it?
And it kills her?
That's what kills her?
Yeah. Trying to wield...
I think we're all in agreement that Ido's going to die, though. I mean, that's all I've learned from this conversation.
Yeah. Ido's going to die. I think it's just a matter of whose fault.
I mean, honestly, all the theories thrown out, I feel like are very valid and very, very well could happen. Any one of the scenarios. I think in Rage, in the middle of the fight, being rageful or whatever, he could kill her. I mean, we know what he's capable of. He knows what he's capable of. He's trying to turn from that, and I feel like Aramis is like foreshadowing, prodding it out of him, like just stop turning away from what you really are, and like through the fight maybe gets through to him, and he has to be more ruthless when he's fighting Aramis.
Spider's kind of poking that bear too.
Or Spider dies. I'm just saying. One of the two.
I think it is possible that Aramis, may, like, I can see your theory, RTF. The only thing is, I think she's dead if she does it. Like I don't think I'd want it, but if she does, do it, she's toast.
Even if she does it to unite all of the fallen, do you think she would find it worth it?
It's another issue.
Probably. I don't know.
That's a tough question. Another issue with this. The only issue that I see is Aramis betraying the darkness. Is it, or even trying, like, they do have the goal to reunite the fallen. That is one thing. Have a Kell of Kells and all that. The only real issue with how it's going, or was Aramis just betraying the witness, is that her whole motivation now has been finding powers to take on the Traveler to get revenge.
Yeah, that's you started talking, and then I think she wouldn't because of her hate for the Traveler.
Pigeon, I know you have something that you want to cover, so let's just cut from that, stop from there, and we'll go to Pigeon's point.
So this is pretty off topic. We were talking about Guardian or Ghost resurrecting, and I'm 99% sure that this is completely just an Easter egg. But in the Master Chief, or not confirmed to be Master Chief, but in the Cosmodrome drop pod at the end of it was the Cade mission. If you've never played D1, you had to go do it. You could scan a drop pod, and it says, I tried to resurrect him, but he preferred to sleep. He said the last door was enough for 1,000 lifetimes. I was just wondering if I could get your thoughts. Do the Guardians have a choice in being resurrected?
I think that's more of just an Easter egg rather than anything.
That's what I was sure. That's what I thought, right? But I don't know.
It's an interesting question.
My big issue is that even if they decide to sleep, how they have memories of their last war and all that, It feels just more like a off-topic Halo reference
Hold up.
rather than
Hold up.
not.
But there's another thing. I'm trying to find fucking where does it? It goes back to the Ghost Hunter. You know, it goes back to Cyrell. They still have a feeling of their past life. You know, Cyrell says, where is it? Though he could not remember his past, he knew deep down that he had already fought his last war. So they still carry some of that, you know. And I don't know.
So next week we'll be back. Probably.
There's a time limit on it. No.
Next week, solid hour cutscene.
I can't. I can't say that we can keep it to an hour. It depends on how intense. How intense
So
this
next week, dude.
Yeah.
If we have it,